it is again kind of the Marvelification of another property, right? And when we say Marvelification,
who would dare do this? Disney?
Since this is an alien show, it's time to pick out which aliens look like which genitalia. In the future, people still smoke in front of other people.
This is actually just identical to the start of Aliens already.
Oh, hi. He looks friendly.
Neverland Research Island. Wow. I think Michael Jackson.
I was going to say, in the future, Michael Jackson is a synth.
Kids love that one.
I know, right? Yeah.
Is this just going to be a Wendy and the Lost Boys reference forever now? Oh, God. No.
These are weird. Your breasts. They're weird.
All right, get me out of here.
Move around when I run. The other children have arrived.
Oh, here come the Lost Boys. You knew it was going to happen.
I'm not alone anymore.
Will I be able to walk again?
You'll be able to walk, run, jump, dance.
No, we're specifically giving you one without legs.
Yeah.
As a joke.
That's
I want to be.
So he actually is named after one of the Lost Boys. Oh my God!
Wait, what was
it's
his
so
name?
ham-fisted.
I like the little eyeball octopus. He's my favorite.
Here's Johnny.
You miss me? I'm just backing up here. Don't mind me. In the future, nerds still exist. So people only watch movies that are hundreds of years old in this era? What? The classics. It's Ray Romano. He was famous 500 years ago.
Get me out, man. This show, all I've seen is just Aliens references and Peter Pan references, and now I have to watch this garbage.
But
Come on, do
did
something.
you
Do
expect-
something. I'm gonna poke it with a stick. Do something.
Did you expect the
Do
Peter...
something.
All right, guys, we did Alien. Now it's time to do Aliens. We're going to get through the entire trilogy by the end of this episode.
Is the plot of this show that now Wendy and the Lost Boys have to fight the Captain Hook alien? Is that it? Are we gonna start calling the Xenomorph Captain Hook?
No, they're pirates. Alien blood can't melt steel girders.
Sir, a second spacecraft has hit New Siam.
What kind of ship is this?
Science,
Space. A spaceship.
Weyland-Yutani.
So
This-
aliens are Nazis, is what I'm saying.
Are they pirates or Nazis? Now I'm confused. We're mixing our metaphors here.
They're the most terrifying Nazi pirates.
He's a medic with the tactical unit.
Tim, this is not a good look for you. I'm sorry.
Send.
Yeah. The Lost Boys.
Oh, now we're just literally calling them the Lost Boys. Okay.
Mhm.
I went out to
Movies and videos, rather. Yep. Gotta read the walrus. All right, what the?
Why didn't they race swap any of them?
Being sick. It's scary.
Just saying.
No,
So
no comment.
they'll do that in casting. So in Hollywood, they'll do that in casting, but they can't justify doing it for fictional children in synthetic bodies.
No comment. What are we? Some kind of suicide squad? Oh, snap. I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like I would feel something that large crawling around inside my shirt. So that bug in your shirt, you feeling it yet?
Brother, come on. You can't leave us like this. I'm not your brother.
Oh, snap.
What does that? I don't know.
Some kind of alien?
We gotta find what made that trail.
Why would you do that?
Why do you need to find?
You're not
do you
paid
really
to do
need
that.
No. Maybe it needs help.
That's not your job.
It's just, it's so vulnerable and needs help and rescue. Hey, alien, we're here to rescue. Alien rescue.
Oh.
Well, there you are. I was wondering where you were. Hey, buddy. Hey, little guy. Oh, there's a lot of room in that helmet. All right, sure. Go ahead and chill up there.
What?
Why did it wait and do that?
Well, now you start shaking your head.
I mean, anyone who's been outdoors in Wisconsin in the fall knows ticks are like this.
Dude, hit your head on the pillar. Your head is not constrained.
Go in his mouth.
You just handcuffed with a zip tie.
Okay, then.
Well, that was certainly a TV
Sure.
show. All right, here we go.
Another
Next
episode.
episode.
All right.
Are you guys actually saving anybody? You're just like looking around trying to die.
Right? What about search and rescue?
It's very convenient that this ship happened to hit the one part of Earth that her brother lived in, and her brother happens to be a first responder. Whoa, that is the fastest closing elevator door of all time.
Apparently.
Oh, it's just boring, DoA. You see, he's childlike himself because he's supposed to be Peter Pan in this analogy. Get me out.
Sure, of
DoA.
course. But like, now we've got.
Get me out.
Now we've got the. Seems to be a large avocado of some kind.
Eyeball octopus is inside.
Oh, hey, is that eyeball octopus? Does it take over? Does it take over animals? Hey, what's up, eyeball octopus? Yeah, pop out and say hi. Yeah, come on out, buddy. What's up? I missed you.
Really doesn't even look very good.
Hey, you're my favorite alien. You're so wacky.
How come they never find any benign aliens and only the ones that want to infest your body constantly?
Yeah, we're all like the big stupid aliens that produce like the blue milk from Star Wars or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just glad that eyeball octopus is okay.
That guy's gonna die in
No
2
kidding,
seconds.
Alien behind you. There's an alien behind you.
Yeah.
What the heck is going on in this show?
Interrupting our Rococo party.
I love this.
We're evacuating the building. Please.
I love the show now.
Head down.
We're having a dinner party. The Caspians.
That just made it all worthwhile right there.
Hey, look, that guy died. What a surprise.
Ave Maria. Ah! I say, there's quite a bit of noise out there. I missed.
Well, that gun did him a lot of good.
Oh no, it's the superhero fighting trope where you just throw the character around that you don't want to kill.
Yeah, I like how the alien killed all those other people in like 1 second, but just waits to kill him for some
I'm
reason.
tired now. Leave me alone.
Why didn't you just do that on the ship? No, for real though.
Well, one of us is going to have to lick it, I suppose.
Keep an eye on this.
For science.
Monty, very little in this show makes any sort of sense.
Nope. It sure doesn't.
So he's fine because he's not afraid? Yep, definitely something friendly. Well, this probably goes in my mouth, right?
Open wide. Wow, this guy has crazy baseball lore.
Yeah.
From 100 and what, 50 years
more-
before
at least.
this modern
At
era.
least, if this is 20, if this is
Is Leonardo DiCaprio drinking a beer with his son?
hey son, someday you're gonna love ancient baseball lore. This movie is like being on drugs.
You passed the test, the Christmas morning memory test.
Who played the elephant in Ice Age? A mammoth, I'm sorry. It was Ray Romano. I loved Everybody Loves Raymond too. It went on for a lot of seasons, but no.
We're the only two people who remember Ray Romano.
What did...
Heavy metal music intensifies.
All right. We know when the metal kicks in, it's time for the episode to end. This time we got Tool. You know what other series, ended with a rock song every episode, Monty? That was a, kind of a continuation of a property that became popular in the 1980s. You know what show that was?
What?
The Willow television show.
Oh, God, really?
Yep. They did that every episode, too. I'm telling you, Alien Earth is going to get purged. Never seen again on the
Not sure I would mind
on the
that.
platform.
We return on Nerd Legion with new television. Once again, we've been doing a lot of new things recently. Superman, Fantastic Four, Strange New Worlds. And now, here we are with the first 2 episodes released right now, basically. Alien Earth.
Yeah, we just saw him.
I'm sure you just saw some highlights of us watching the show live. That's probably what started this episode, if I had to guess. And so,
Yeah, sorry about that.
if you are thinking of watching it, the critics have been saying this show is quite good. They've been saying things like it is the Andor of aliens, and I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, just putting someone from Andor in Aliens doesn't make it the Andor of Aliens. That's what we've learned. But I mean, it had so many. Okay, so I will start by saying I really like the premise. I like that we've got this ship filled with all sorts of creepy, dangerous, different kinds of aliens instead of just a traditional xenomorph alien. I think that's great. I like that it, crashes on Earth and we get all that. It's basically like crashes into a shopping mall or whatever. So I like the premise. I like the idea of expanding the lore around synthetics and cyborgs and all that kind of stuff, all that part of the universe too. But the way they do it, just, I don't know, it just, it hasn't begun working for me yet for a variety of kind of quirky, weird, kick you out of the story kind of reasons. But I want to like it. I really, really want to like this show. That's where I'm coming from here, because I've always liked Alien. I've always liked that universe. And while many of the movies since Aliens really haven't been that great, it's like Star Wars in a way where I like the universe. I like the universe, right? So I want to see stories told in that universe, but we'll see how this one delivers. After 2 episodes, I'm not hyper confident.
And just like Star Wars, if you like the originals, then you have to suffer through 80% of the total universe now being trash, which is the same of Aliens.
Yeah,
and in fact, we talked about
stuff.
Alien Romulus when it came out, and it was decidedly mid. And I think it had some interesting ideas and some great characters. However, the actual action and pacing was very stereotypically Aliens. It was too self-referential to other Aliens movies, and not in a good way, but just in a way where it's like, oh, they're saying the line again. And didn't decide to actually invent any memorable moments for itself. It just stole memorable moments and recreated them from previous films. So I did rewatch the first 2 Alien movies before that, because it happened that Alien Romulus happens between Alien and Aliens. This happens 2 years before the first movie, the 1979 Alien movie, and obviously directed by Ridley Scott. It does feel like there is a Ridley Scott call out in this, in that Timothy Olyphant's synth character, Kirsch, looks like Roy Batty from Blade Runner. Very much like Roy Batty from Blade Runner.
But a little bit more like musical sensation Sting.
It's true. Sting from David Lynch's Dune.
Yeah, right. Fade Rotha, of course.
Fade
Yeah.
Rotha.
That's where we all know Sting from, first and foremost.
Not the Police.
I will kill you.
I will kill him!
Not Fields of Gold. Fade Rotha from David Lynch's 1984.
Definitely. Who could forget that bikini, right?
So let's talk about Alien Earth, because the premise here is that, of course, 2 years before we get the narrative of the first Alien movie with Ripley on the Nostromo, what we have is another Weyland-Yutani from the capitalistic, wasteland that is Earth 100 years from now. The capitalist dystopia. We have Weyland-Yutani have another vessel that is a deep space research vessel that has, of course, collected these specimens, not only the other xenomorphs, but they seem to have discovered every possible form of alien parasite and put them all on one ship together. And then
I like that. I like that premise.
Only the most dangerous species, of course. And then they're returning to Earth, and of course the aliens escape and kill the crew, and so the spaceship crash lands into a futuristic city called New Siam, which is not owned by Weyland-Yutani, but is owned by the newest of the megacorps, which is a company called Prodigy, which is owned, of course, by a prodigy named Boy Cavalier, who is a genius who is in the process of on his secret island of Neverland. Don't worry, the metaphors will be ham-fisted. Don't you worry about
Keeps
that.
going.
It keeps going in the most obvious, blunt way possible. And on the island of Neverland, he is transferring the consciousnesses of young children, like 11, 12-year-olds, into synthetic bodies.
We young, but yet they look a little bit too old to be acting as young as they are. I feel like it's a little bit weird because they look like kind of middle school age, maybe like freshman high school age, but they're acting kind of elementary school. So it's a little bit off-putting. It's weird.
So anyway, he's saving terminally ill kids by putting them in the bodies of synths, and synths are, of course, core to alien lore from all of the films, basically. And it is there. It makes it very. There's a opening title that makes it very clear. The opening crawl says, "Okay, there's like 3 kinds of more or less artificial life. There's cyborgs, which are enhanced humans. There's the synths, which are full AI, and then there's this new hybrid of human consciousness that has been downloaded into these synths." So right off the bat, I agree this is an interesting setup, DoA, and it is kind of, in that way, very Blade Runner-esque. But the problem, DoA, is that the setup to this is much more interesting without the entire alien component, where I'm intrigued.
Sure, yeah.
So here's what I think this show does well, and I think what Noah Hawley, who made this show, is trying to play with. Obviously, we're trying to extrapolate with the rise of artificial intelligence, what this could mean for humanity. It's going to explore existential questions of what it means to be human. We already have really, I think, compelling dialogue around, well, once they're in the synthetic bodies, they don't really feel the same emotions because they don't have the same hormones, and so they're trying to artificially create that, but obviously this is a science experiment in progress. So there's a lot of really interesting things about how much the concept of human consciousness is tied to biological processes, and cool thing to explore. Now, could we have done this without aliens? Of course we could have. But we had to make an alien franchise to get people to watch the damn thing. So instead, we're trying to explore it within the confines of the alien universe. So anyway, this ship crash lands, the aliens get out. Now, this obviously raises questions about if the aliens were on Earth prior to the alien escaping on the Nostromo, and then Ripley making back to Earth, raises a lot of questions about why wouldn't they believe her, what the cover-up was, and I'm sure probably we'll get to that. But we kind of leave this episode with the children in the robot bodies being flown from Neverland, the island, to the crash ship to save people and to contain the aliens.
I mean, I'm going to call it right now. Why Ripley and the rest of humanity doesn't know about it. I'll tell you. Because by the end of the show, Weyland-Yutani will have completely wiped the memory of Prodigy off of the planet, more or less. They are going to... I would not... Because they kind of imply already in like the first or second episode, I can't remember because we just watched them both at the same time, but like that, it's kind of there's a political and even like military aspect to the competition between these countries, or companies rather. They act like countries. And so I bet, there is going to be some sort of like military action from Weyland-Yutani to just come in and be like, all right, you've had enough fun, but we're the ones who control this planet, and just stomp them out.
Well, we also know that Weyland-Yutani was trying to get the aliens to do bioweapons research in the first place, right? And, we do know that there is a cover-up because at the start of Aliens, like Weyland-Yutani, the representatives back home are very interested in not having Ripley tell her story about what she saw, and then trying to contain... now that there's a settlement and a colony on that world, sending the Marines out in order to contain the threat.
Right.
So,
and Burke knows the entire time exactly what's there. Yeah. In Aliens. Yeah.
So, there is precedent for this within the universe. So it'll be interesting to see how this played out. But I feel like, DoA, it would be very hard to contain this information when the ship crashes into a giant city. And also, somewhat unnecessary because this could have crashed into a remote settlement, and I think the cover-up would be much easier to appreciate or understand. And then so it lends that realism, and you still have that same, I think, level of drama, because it wasn't like it needed to crash into a giant city and aliens. It was a pretty small colony, but that movie still has excellent tension and stakes.
Well, I can almost guarantee you this show is going to end up being kind of like Alien Die Hard, where it's going to all happen in that one skyscraper, right? And that's probably what's going to happen in the end. They're not going to like nuke the city. They're probably just going to destroy the building and the ship, and then pass it off as some sort of like military argument between the companies. I bet that's what it's going to be. They've definitely set that up to be the case already.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Spoiler alert. Yeah, that's how it's going to end.
But as far as this goes, I mean, I guess my main gripe is that it moves really slowly, and it's actually quite boring, frankly, for the first 2 episodes. I'm willing to wait and see if it becomes more exciting and gets better, but they waste a lot of time on silly nostalgia, which we don't have to do because we just got all of the silly nostalgia out of the way with Alien Romulus. Like, do we really need to do that again? Because basically the beginning, the first 20, 30 minutes of this are just another, like you pointed out with Alien Romulus, DoA, just a combination of Alien and Aliens once again. And in this case, it's basically the identical scene.
We can't get away from that.
It's basically the identical scene from Aliens, where the Marines wake up from cryostasis in the same tubes, in the same galley, with the same, braless tank top panty women, and then a very awkward scene where there's some sexist banter back and forth, and they're smoking cigarettes inside the spaceship because that's the aesthetic that they're going for. And then they just see, but DoA, we're introduced to these characters, and then they do that for like 10 minutes, and then they all go back in the tubes, and then the alien escapes, and then they all die off screen. So what the fuck was the point of the first 30 minutes of this show?
I feel like it was more close to the dinner scene in Alien in the first movie, where except it didn't end with the chest burster scene. It ended with them going back to sleep again, which again, that was kind of like, let's wake up and give some exposition for the audience and then go back to sleep again. I mean, there had to be a better way to do that.
Well, also,
but obviously that was done for the purpose of making the viewer feel like they are in the Alien franchise universe, because you're shooting it from the same angles. You're doing it all.
And
I know, but I know why they did it. I don't like it.
Except worse, because you don't even have like Bill Paxton hamming it up, or Bishop doing the knife trick with the hands in that scene from Aliens when they're all in the mess. Like
it's like those two scenes, but with all the fun sucked out. There's no chest burster scene at the end, and there's no like engaging little mini side conversations. It's just kind of people talking over each other and being real.
And it's also just. It's a setup for nothing, because again, they all just die off screen 30 seconds later to advance the plot. So I'm not even sure really what the point of that was. I mean, here's the thing, DoA. Maybe some of the characters lived and we're going to see them later on. That's possible. I haven't seen every body of every person. And one of the characters, who is the same guy from Alien, right, who's in basically the same character, which is the hardline security guy from the first film, is inside the mother computer pod, which they do a great job of reproducing within this movie.
The show looks great. Just in general, the show looks great.
Yeah, it looks just like Alien Romulus looks great. Look very faithful to the original like aesthetic and technology level. But they actually just reproduce. It seems like reproduce sets from Alien and Aliens in this film. So the part where they're at the computer terminal, the mother computer terminal in the pod, looks extremely good. But again, it's basically like the same scene of sending the SOS message out from Mother while the alien ravages the ship, and just kind of whatever.
Speaking of the visuals again real quick, it almost, the way they treated it looks like it was shot on film almost too. It does have this kind of like a OG sort of graininess to it too a little bit, which I like. But back to the story stuff. It's, and he's like all right, I'm going to send this off and then get in the hole before the ship crashes, which he doesn't strap himself in, but I guess he's fine, Alien's okay, but the alien's alien. The alien just doesn't die, I like how he welds the door shut and then the alien just like punches a hole through the window anyway. Like, All right. Didn't think that one through the whole way, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the part where it really kind of lost me a little bit was like the very heavy-handed Peter Pan references, where it was just, it kept going and going and going. We're like, all right, we get it. It's Neverland. It's the Peter Pan thing. It's the Lost Boys thing. Like, we get it. We get it. All right. But they just kept hitting us over the head with it, and tone wise, I'm not sure where we're at with this show. Is it drama? Is it sort of like adventure? I mean, you can combine all those things, but it has to be done in a way that, doesn't, throw you out of it. Doesn't, jar you. Right. I mean, you've got the one scene in the second episode where they're walking through and it's a very tense scene and we're worried about, our main character's brother and all that. And then they knock on a door and there's like a big party filled with like Victorian fops.
Rococo
and
Fops. No, they're not Victorian.
It's all
that's,
the same.
That's way
it's all the same.
pre. It's like 100 years pre-Victorian.
Well, it's okay because the span of 150 years doesn't really matter in this show because apparently all the main characters watched were sports and movies from 120 to 150 years ago, because we've got Ice Age in there. We've got Reggie Jackson from like
the original,
the
animated Peter Pan from Disney, which of course they have the rights to because this show is made by Disney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. So, but it's like it just kept going. It's like, wow, this family was like a real like hipster future family. Like, we only watch things from between the, we only watch sports and media from between 1960 and 2010, and that's it. But it was just warmed my heart to hear Ray Romano's voice on the screen again. That's all I gotta say.
But I agree with you that the Peter Pan metaphor, it's not even really a metaphor at this point because it's so blunt and so ham-fisted and so in your face. They literally name all of the kids after Lost Boys or Smee, weirdly. Like,
yeah, Smee's in there. I don't know why.
I don't understand why they named
the
main character Wendy and then named the other ones Lost Boys, except for one who's Smee, who is the
Smee's
Irish,
a fun name.
the Irish first mate to Captain Hook, but is an antagonist to the Lost Boys in the book and also the animated film. And obviously the idea is that you never grow up if you're a Lost Boy because they've been transferred into adult bodies with children's consciousnesses, right? The clear implication is that the boy genius is Peter Pan, who acts very childlike himself because he's a quirky tech guy. You know what I mean?
And guess what, Monty? He will succeed in never growing up either because he will die by the end of the series.
Or he will come on, Noah. His own arrogance is going to cause him to transfer himself into a synth body.
Maybe. We'll see. I think he's gonna be dead. That's my guess. I think he's gonna be dead by the end of this one.
So anyway, the whole thing, calling it Neverland, having it look like the island of Neverland as you might imagine it, and has been written about by J.M. Barrie. It really is incredibly on the nose when they're getting their consciousness transferred. They're literally playing clips from the 1960 animated Peter Pan on the ceiling so they can watch it while the process is being done. It's really over the top.
It is. I mean, you've got Dame Sylvia, which very much seems like the grandmotherly kind of figure. We're kind of crossing things a little bit, and that's more of an elderly Wendy from Hook, is the vibe I got there a little bit. But so maybe we're mixing up our Pan franchise, media a little bit here, but we've got a little bit of that. Who's Kirsch supposed to be in the Peter Pan analogy? Is he kind of Captain Hook?
I mean, the question is the alien Captain Hook? If so, what's the crocodile, right? I mean, I assume this is just going to keep perpetuating.
How far does it go?
Yeah, how far does it go? It's not very interesting, and it's unfortunately, Noah, it's not very deep right now either. Like, Peter Pan itself is not very deep. I've read the book again recently. It is a fun piece of children's fantasy literature, but it is not, I would say, particularly profound. And so I'm wondering how Noah Hawley is going to deal with this like very heavy narrative like that he's overlaid on top of this entire story, and whether it's going to be revelatory in some way. because
he's
it
got
doesn't.
a good track record too coming into this. That's I think why a lot of us were excited about it, because I have heard very good things about the things he's done in the past. So, I haven't watched any of them. I will say that. But I did hear a lot of good things about Fargo. I heard a lot of good things about like Bones and stuff like that. So, certainly a respected writer, director, show creator, and with a good track record. So, and I will say that I'm interested to watch more. I felt a little bit bored here and there. The Peter Pan stuff was a bit much, but like I said, I really like the premise, and I see the potential in the show.
I'm just really concerned about how the lack of subtlety in the portrayals. Like when we get to the everybody dressed up like it's a 18th century French court, which obviously brings back the Marie Antoinette vibes, which brings back
Sure,
let them eat cake.
Yeah.
We're told very explicitly in this show, the founder of Prodigy about the accident says basically save people by their income brackets. So we understand it's a highly stratified capitalist society. And so it's funny when all these people are dressed up in their powdered wigs and their ridiculous French makeup from, the court of Louis, and they're having this party and the alien just goes in and murks them all, right? And they're not going to leave because they would have been called if it was something important, even though I struggle to believe that
Are there no windows in that apartment?
A spaceship flying into their apartment building would not cause them to leave and would continue like their decadent party even under those circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, like 80 floors sounds like a massive building, and it is, but it's not massive enough that you wouldn't notice a giant ship flying into it, and you wouldn't want to get out of there as fast as possible, or you will die. So that, maybe there's a lot of drugs involved. Who knows? Maybe they don't have windows on that apartment.
They do.
Who
we
knows?
saw the windows. Unfortunately, don't.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We did. Yeah, but. To me though, it's got a very, it does fit with the older Alien stuff in a way that it fits in the whole 80s, 90s hyper evil, cynical corporate, like dystopia thing, which was very, think like RoboCop, all that kind of stuff, right? So it does that attitude. Yeah, Blade Runner, sure. That attitude towards things, is definitely something that was very present back then when the original movies were made. And so, to a ridiculous degree, right? Like that kind of scene wouldn't be out of place at all in something like RoboCop, right? So, maybe Blade Runner is a little bit too dramatic for that. But like, but I don't know. Blade Runner did have like people dancing around in tutus and stuff. So yeah, I guess. So
Blade Runner's pretty absurd,
honestly,
man. I don't know.
Exactly. So I'm not bothered by that scene too much. I'm bothered by the premise of it, that these people, even in their, ridiculous eccentricity, wouldn't leave the building under these circumstances. That's what I have a hard time believing.
Yeah,
but that scene itself feels in place.
It feels like the attempts to say something profound are just so unsubtle in this that they just stretch believability, even in a highly not believable world, right? Like we're already in a sci-fi fantasy world, but it seems out of place even in that context. And I think that's what's annoying about it. And it also just makes it so fucking obvious when it could be more nuanced. And I think that's what's annoying, is that instead of actually saying something profound, it just layers the entire narrative with this kind of Peter Pan window dressing. So that's the only thing you're looking at, but it doesn't yet, I will say yet, it doesn't yet do anything with that, which is disappointing. It's like, here's a parallel. Do you see the parallel? Do you see the parallel? Do you see the parallel? Yes, I understand the parallel. Now, would you like me to think something about the parallel? Are we making the comparison for thematic reasons? Now, that part is what's not clear at this point in time.
Now, and we see a lot of like, Stranger Things kind of vibes thrown in here a little bit, too, where it's like you've got the young, naive, spunky little crew going into the dangerous place, right? And sure, that's great. Are we doing that? Are we doing like a?
Is it Skeleton Crew but for aliens?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, are we doing that right? Are we doing it where it's just kind of more on the lighter side of things?
So are people going to start accusing this, just like they did of Skeleton Crew, of being the Goonies but for aliens? Because that's what it feels like, if I'm being honest. If you're gonna accuse Skeleton Crew of being the Goonies for Star Wars, it's really close to being the Goonies for aliens. Just gonna put it out there.
We are a metaphorical millimeter away from pirates being in this show, right? We got Peter Pan, So yeah, I do wonder, but I feel like the gore is what they're counting on to keep it from falling too much into that category. But the gore is kind of played off as humor in a lot of this already, which it never really. I'm trying to think of. It never really was an Alien or Aliens. Certainly not Alien, and not Aliens either. Like the gore was always supposed to be like scary and like
not
people
really
are dying.
In any of the
this
films.
Is serious, right? Whereas this one, you've got like a bunch of like comedy gore moments, right? Where like the cat is kind of supposed to be funny comedy gore. The Rococo, as you say, Fop cut in half and dragging his top half around the floor is supposed to be kind of funny in the scene.
It is funny, to be fair.
Sure, but like, but that's a tone that's a departure from Aliens, and it's a tone that's a departure from. It's a tone that's a departure from what we've already seen in other parts of the episode too. So one of my questions is like, tonally, where are we going with this? Are we going to get any consistency, or is it just going to be kind of all over the place? I feel like there's kind of no escape from it now. It's just going to be kind of wildly different from one scene to the next at this point. And occasionally they'll fade in clips from Ice Age.
and also it just feels like we just, in every Alien film, we just have, the same tropes. You have the evil corporate guy who's like doing the bad things in the name of securing the alien for science. In this case, it's Morrow. He's the cyborg that's on board the ship. But it also, when you watch this, you just end up with a lot of questions about how this could even happen in the first place, because Morrow really easily subdues the alien at the end of episode 2 by like stunning it with electricity with a gun. And then he puts it
briefly
in like a sack and starts dragging it around. But the whole point is like, he was literally on a clock, with the door getting punched in. Like, why didn't they, if they knew that this would work, why didn't they just stun it with all the guns in the ship? And if he didn't know that it was going to work, why did he try it at that particular moment in time and go try and hunt it down if he didn't know how it was going to go? And you can't just be like, well, they didn't have the weapons.
Anyway,
it's like, you have to explain these things. If it was so fucking easy, why didn't they
bring those electricity guns in Aliens? Why didn't the Space Marines have a bunch of those?
Exactly.
So there's some of that. One of the things that bothers me most from the first couple episodes is that we got a little bit MCU, we got a little bit Marvel in one of those scenes where we had Hermit, the main character's brother, who, the entire room has just been slaughtered in like less than 15 seconds. Everybody's dead so fast they didn't even get a chance to stand up from the chairs they were sitting in many cases in this party. And yet, when the alien attacks one of our protagonists, what does it do? It does the dumb Marvel villain thing of throwing the protagonist around, where it could just rip his head off with one little swipe of a claw. Nope. Now you suddenly, after just doing the opposite, you suddenly have to pick him up and toss him around, pick him up and toss him around. Like, oh no, will he live? Like, well, clearly, because he's got plot armor. This is like the definition of plot armor. When you see the villain, in this case, the alien, slaughter a dozen people moments before, but then when it comes to our hero, right, or our protagonist, just throw him around a little bit, just rough him up, until
and then of course the Deus Ex Machina of the guy showing up
Yeah.
at the end too and just one-shotting it.
yeah. So I'm like, oh, come on, you couldn't think of anything better than that. All right, they really wanted to have the scene where the Fops get slaughtered because it was hilarious, right? But then they're like, oh crap, but our protagonist had to be there for us to see the nobility gets slaughtered, and so now how is he gonna live? It's like, well, I just have the alien toss him around a little bit. It'll look dangerous. He'll look like he's really in danger. People will be really worried. It'll be fine. No one will notice. No one will think about it. But we always do.
And one of the things I liked about the first couple Alien movies is that the horrible things that happened to Ripley seemed really arbitrary, right? This is a almost Lovecraftian horror coming from deep space, and she just happened to be basically a trucker for mining ore on the wrong ship at the wrong time, and she elevated herself to the status of hero. It wasn't super contrived, right? In the same way that Star Wars over time, not the original trilogy, but in all of, especially the sequel trilogy, became super contrived of, oh, it's these people who are all related and they're all on the same planets and blah, 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 right? And I think what's so dumb about this is that Joe Hermit is the brother of the main character, Wendy, but she was terminally ill. And just by happenstance, the ship crashes into the exact part of Earth that he is on. And he happens to be a medic, so he is a first responder to the ship that crashed, which gives her the justification to try and go save him. So it's just like, it's ultra contrived, and the odds of that happening are just infinitesimally small.
Now, here's the thing, though.
But that's where it feels
Go
like
ahead.
the Star Wars sequels, where it's just like ultra contrived to get the right characters in the right place, where it didn't feel that way in the first Alien movies.
I will. Here's another edition of DoA Writes It Better, where let me give you a better setup. So I don't mind a coincidence existing of her brother, being in the city where the ship crashes. That's fine. That is a type of coincidence that is not beyond reason at all, right? A disaster happens. I've got a relative there. That happens, right? That's not hard to believe at all.
But yes.
Sure, but that's believable, right? But rather than taking it way, way farther and having he's a medic, he's there on the ship already, he's right
like
in the action.
mere blocks away from the crash too, in a giant mega city.
So instead have him just be a regular citizen with a regular job in the city and get caught up in the disaster as a regular citizen would be. Not only does that give us more, I think, interest in him as someone who can rise to be heroic, and we root for and want to be saved, but then also have it, be more of like a motivation for her, where it's like, well, my brother's there and he's just a regular person, and so maybe we'll find him, maybe we won't, but that's her motivation for going there. I think we could do that.
You could even do it the reverse way, where he's not in the city, but he's a medic. So there's a world where, remember, we're told that the Earth is divided between 5 corporations, which, assuming they have equal land mass, gives the ship a 20% chance, if it crashes on land, to crash into Prodigy something, right? Sure. And so he's still a medic, but he's part of Prodigy's like elite first response team that gets flown out wherever there's a medical crisis in Prodigy cities. And so it crashes into a Prodigy city, and he's just flown out there, right? All of a sudden, either way, you could do it, and it makes slightly more sense than he is a medic mere blocks away from the site of this crash in the city. So it feels very staged in that way, which takes me out of it somewhat. And like, obviously,
a little bit too far,
obviously, it goes exactly where you think it's going to go, which is, oh, you don't look like my sister. I have to test if you're actually our sister. Let's talk about memories that we share. It's literally exactly the schlock that you would think has been written. It has been written in this show.
Yeah, it is kind of the Marvelification of another property, right? And when we say Marvelification,
who would dare do this? Disney?
I don't know. Who knows?
Who would dare Marvelify someone? Disney couldn't possibly be responsible for both of these things, could they?
I'm surprised when they snapped their fingers and the Peter Pan clip started rolling, it didn't say now streaming on Disney Plus before it started rolling.
I'm surprised it didn't come with a trigger warning at the beginning about depictions of Native Americans.
Oh no! Anyway, so. Yeah, it's a show that, again, just in general, I think this is a show, again, that I really want to like. But it seems like for whatever reason, and maybe the showrunner's hands are tied a little bit. This is a big property. Obviously, there's a lot of stakeholders, as they're called in the corporate world, that have their fingers in the pie, right? So I think it's entirely reasonable to believe that there is influence coming from that side of things as well. That might be kind of derailing stuff a little bit. But yeah, I just want to see things tightened up a bit. I feel like it's not a terrible show at all.
The acting's good. I mean, I think the performances are good. I think the world is very well realized. It looks great. It's shot great. Like visually, it's very compelling. So there is, and again, we like the premise. I think the premise of having the people in the synthetic really bodies is cool. It's a cool premise,
and multiple kinds of aliens premise too. I love that too. I think that's really awesome. I like seeing all these creepy, horrific kind of aliens, except for the tick ones. Those are just boring. But like everything else, I mean, like eyeball octopus, #1 in my heart personally. I was so happy to know that he made it through unscathed. Having a big eyeball like that's dangerous, right? That's a lot of very vulnerable surface area. You only got some little tentacles to kind of protect you there. So, so I'm happy he's okay. Hopefully makes it through the season. I doubt it, but nobody will. Maybe we won't even make it through the season. Maybe we won't even finish and do another episode on this one. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I want it to be good. I think it's off to a very tepid start.
Are you familiar with the concept of surf Dracula, DoA?
No, I am not. I wish
I was. Seems like something you would
enjoy.
enjoy. So a few years ago, there was a very famous tweet that went viral, and the tweet goes like this. Back in the day, if you did a TV show called Surf Dracula, you'd see that fool surfing every week in new adventures. But in the streaming era, the entire first season got to be a long-ass flashback to how he got the surfboard until you finally get to see him surf for 5 minutes in the finale.
That's absolutely true. That is absolutely true, and I hate it. That's why it's been so nice, actually, with the Superman movie and the Fantastic Four movie. One of the things both those movies did well is dropping us in the middle of it, where things are already established. Like, that's fine. Please do that, right?
Strange New Worlds does that to a degree as well. Like, I may not like Strange New Worlds, but they don't have the surf Dracula problem. They definitely show the fucking Dracula surfing every episode. Is surf Dracula itself a good concept? Obviously not, but Dracula is surfing. I have to give them credit for that, but it's true. And so the phrase surf Dracula has now become a reference for these streaming shows where it's just like they never actually get to the part you want to see, and it's just all exposition and flashbacks and all this setup and nonsense. And to be fair, DoA, it's kind of happening here. They did get to the alien escaping, and we're kind of getting to the core action, but there was a lot of exposition in the first couple of episodes around the brother and the kids who were being transferred that was pretty boring. And also the exposition about how the alien got to Earth was just completely useless, by the way. It was 30 minutes of wasted time.
I mean, there's the thing in writing where, if something is interesting enough to be a flashback, then why don't you just take us there? Why doesn't that just be a scene, right? So I get why people are compelled to just have that be the show, but I think it goes back to a conversation we used to have. We had a lot, I feel like, at the start of the year, which is a lot of shows, a lot of media these days just doesn't know how to do flashbacks anymore, right? They don't know how to correctly use them to set up things in the present. They don't know what information to show, So I think people are maybe just afraid of flashbacks now, and so now we're just getting a lot of build up without any time for the payoff. This show is only 8 episodes long. We're already a fourth of the way through, right? Is that math right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I was an art major. Anyway, I just had to check myself on that. But I was right. Hooray! I can tell you that 2 is 1/4 of 8. But yeah, it's. So we already don't have a lot of time left, So I'm still not even sure what the plot of this show is, because we've kind of rescued the brother already. The aliens are around, but they seem kind of contained to the ship, So will things start escaping? If they escape into the city, what are we going to do? Where, I don't even really know what the major plot line of this show is, right? I guess the Prodigy team is trying to capture these things, but I guess that's our main plot. Is that our main plot? That's kind of our main plot. I'm not sure.
I guess.
Answers will come in episode 3, maybe.
Yeah. So, and also, does this go beyond one season? It feels like you're really hemmed in by the other Alien movies by setting this before the first movie, which makes it, I think, a little bit awkward. But also, I mean, I think basically like Prometheus and Alien Covenant fucked everything up so badly that it's hard to do things after those movies too, because there's a bunch of extra weird stuff that they added that you would have to deal with.
I've got this crazy idea though, Monty. Why don't we just stop doing movies and television in this universe?
You said you liked it at the start of the episode.
I do, but what I've always said consistently throughout the entire time we've done this show, what have I always said? I've always said, as much as I like these universes, I would rather see new science fiction and new fantasy be created. I'd rather see new universes to love come out. So that still remains the main thing I would love to see, is just something new, right? Something new and good, and not Rebel Moon. That's all I ask for. So yeah, so I like
your
Aliens,
choices
but
are
I'd rather see something new.
Recycled garbage or Rebel Moon. Those are our choices in the year 2025.
And recycled garbage makes more money, so we know which one we're getting.
And also, when you try and do something new and original like Mickey 17, you fuck it up, and then it makes no money, so no one will ever do it again.
That's the Rebel Moon syndrome right there, right? You know, you try to make something original, but you're really bad at it, and then you get that. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, Noah. Like, I feel I definitely don't have the same vibes that Andor gave. I mean, Andor had some really deep themes it was working with, especially in season 2. The characters, the writing was super compelling. None of those things are true of this. There isn't the same profundity to this show at this point in time that we saw from Andor, or tension, or political intrigue, or super compelling characters. Or, I mean, I think the acting is fine in this, but it's not the level of acting that we saw in Andor. But again, it hasn't had time yet, so I'm willing to give it a few more episodes. I just, it's always going to just run into the first Alien movie, and it makes you wonder how it's going to effectively connect to the rest of the universe. And could we get a second season? Doesn't that just run into, I mean, I know she's in cryosleep for years and stuff like that, so in theory, they've got some amount of time to play with, but how do you keep this show going without shattering the continuity of everything else that you've already established?
Well, you have to move it off of Earth, that's for sure.
It
has to be Alien Moon. You got to move it off of Earth, yeah. That's because the longer it's on Earth, the harder it becomes plausible that they would be able to cover all this up, So, yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess. Shrug. I was hoping to really be wowed. I want something to love, I want a show to get really excited about again, but I guess we're just gonna have to wait for the Deathstalker remake to come out, the Patton Oswalt one.
Too bad he's not Deathstalker. That would have been.
I know, right? That's hugely miscast there. He should have been Deathstalker.
My question is, who is Patton Oswalt in Deathstalker?
My guess is the love interest. Gotta have a hot love interest, right? In a Deathstalker film. But
it's coming.
Yeah, it is. So what's coming next week for us? That's we talked about it? We need to discuss this maybe.
I like how DoA just brings this up, so we do try and discuss it during the show. We'll let you know. It's probably a return to our 1980s fantasy film arc, but we'll see you then.